Hi everyone, this is Rohit from Lifestyle Mastery, and I'm excited to have Nick, who was the founder of the Sweaty startup and Bull Storage, which owns and operates a self-storage portfolio with 63 self-storage properties. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So you've been very active on Twitter, and you built quite a personal brand for yourself. But how did you get your start in this crazy world of startups?
Yeah, so I started a sweaty startup, a boring business, a pickup and delivery student storage company in 2011 when I was a junior in college. And it was a hard business, but we learned a ton about hiring employees and building teams and all the headaches and tough things about running a company. And we got some experience and ended up selling that business in 2020. And before we even had sold, we kind of leveraged some of the profits and cash flow from that business to start to invest in commercial real estate. And we built our first building in 2017. And today we have quite a large portfolio. We've raised a little bit of money and also I'm dabbling in some other entrepreneurial endeavors with some other businesses as well, but it's definitely been a journey.
Interesting. And what made you get into student property? Because I was earlier working for a student accommodation marketplace. Very interesting concept here in the UK. But what got you involved into student space?
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't really consider myself an entrepreneur. I didn't overthink it. I didn't study entrepreneurs. I didn't read entrepreneurship books. I simply got excited about making some money and ran around, and the goal wasn't to take over the world. The goal wasn't a world-changing idea. It wasn't a new app. It wasn't scalability. It was, hey, let's go make a couple $1,000 and see what happens here. And we kind of ran around and did that the first season. Then we set some goals that we had to kind of get uncomfortable and grow and scale, try to grow and scale the company the next year. And because we were about to graduate with Ivy League degrees and we didn't want to be running a moving company if it wasn't going to really help us move the needle forward in our life. So we went to a couple other locations, a couple other college towns, rented warehouses, bought cargo vans, and just started grinding and didn't overthink it. And most of the people we were starting to network with as business owners and entrepreneurs, they definitely weren't attracted to our idea. They didn't think it was a home run, and it wasn't an exciting thing to talk about with people. But by the time we were 25 years old, we had $500,000 in the bank, and we could go leverage our skill set to do some bigger and better things. So I think it was a necessary journey. It was suffering, and it wasn't fun, and it wasn't an easy business, but it was necessary to get to where we are today to kind of go through that pain and struggle.
Kind of interesting. And you mentioned something interesting, that you went to an Ivy League college, but when you go to an Ivy League college, there's always a pressure to take up a high status job, like for example, in investment banking or being consulting. What advice would you give to recent graduates who would want to get their start into entrepreneurship? Would you advise them to look into tech startups or do something which makes money?
It is such a tough question. I mean, it depends on the person. Not everybody's cut out for entrepreneurship. Not everybody is cut out for the risk. And when it comes to tech startups and going and trying to raise venture capital and trying to start a scalable, world-changing business, I think that there's no worse time to do that than when you have no network, no capital, and no operating ability. You don't know how to run a company. I think to start a business, you need three things. You need cash, you need experience, and you need a network so that you can find customers and find employees and find people to join your team. And when you're just getting out of college, you have none of those things. So going and raising money and trying to, disrupt a space is really tough. It's been done, but the odds are against you. I had a lot of friends who left college and tried to do that for a little while, and they ended up going to get jobs because the odds were stacked against them, and it was so tough. So my advice would be to maybe set the goal. If you are going to pursue entrepreneurship, set the goal a little bit lower, try to make some money, try to do a normal business. There's a lot of businesses in our towns that are operating right now that make good money, and you can just get a piece of the pie, and you can start to build those three things that you need. And then later on in your career, you can do bigger things, more profitable things, more scalable things.
Got it. Interesting. And especially when it comes to self-storage, if somebody wants to start buying, what would be how much of capital or cash they would need to raise in order to start off their operations?
Yeah. So people ask me all the time, how do I get started in commercial real estate? How do I get started in self-storage, or even how do I get started in real estate in general?
Right.
And my first question to them is always, it always kind of surprises them. I always say, how much cash do you have?
Yeah.
How much cash do you have? And if they say, well, I don't have any cash, I'm a new entrepreneur, I got 10, 20, $50,000 max. I'll say, okay, well, do you have wealthy family members? Do you have wealthy friends? Do you have people with cash who already trust you because of who you are, your relationship with them? And if they say no to both those questions, if they say no, I say real estate is not for you.
Mm.
It's not. I mean, there are some people who have started with nothing and made a fortune in real estate. That's not the norm. The odds, again, are stacked against you if you go that way. Most real estate families who own city blocks in New York City and, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate, they almost all started with entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
They started a small business, made a bunch of cash, and then they utilized real estate as a way to, achieve tax efficiency with their cash, and also to put their cash to work to kind of grow the wealth snowball. Real estate is a really good wealth multiplier. It's not a really good wealth creator out of nowhere. It's slow. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of capital to do it. Now, if you have some of your own cash, which is, in my case, it was about $500,000 I needed to build that first, commercial piece of real estate. And you have access to a little bit of cash, you can scrape it up. Or if you have very wealthy family members, that's a different story. But yeah, to buy $1 million property, which is a small commercial property, you need $350,000, $400,000 to do it. And I recommend a couple $100,000 in reserve too, because if something happens to the roof, something happens to the drainage, something happens where you need some cash to bail yourself out of a maintenance issue, or your loans are maturing or something along those lines, it can be a sticky situation if you're not well capitalized. So real estate is definitely, at least commercial real estate, is a rich man's game. Now, if you're going to house hack and you're going to live in one side of a duplex and rent the other one out, I highly recommend that. It's a great way to do it. And you don't need a ton of money to do that. It's also hard to make a lot of money fast doing that too. So I'd say most of the time, almost everybody who asks me, Nick, how do I get started in real estate? I'm almost always steering them to entrepreneurship instead. Ignore real estate until you have some money.
Okay, got it. And what type of commercial real estate would you advise to get into once they've started with entrepreneurship, got a bit of a cash? Would you suggest them to get into self-storage, RVs, because you deal into different sort of commercial real estate?
I think it all depends on what opportunities somebody's seeing. Everybody, a lot of people say, I don't know what business to start. I don't know what business to do.
Right.
And I think that's kind of the wrong way to look at it. The right way to look at it is walk around the world with a curious mind, thinking about, hey, how much money does this business make? How much money does that business make? How does this business work? What's this opportunity like? How profitable is it? How easy is it to break into? And how does it fit into my network and my skill set and the amount of cash that I have? And, once you take into consideration your own situation, you can, make educated guesses on what real estate asset class, what small business to go after. But yeah, there's a lot of great real estate, sectors, and it's all pretty simple. I mean, if you know how to run a business, if you know how to market and lease units and answer the phone and manage people, you can do pretty well in real estate. There's a lot of rich, not very smart people in the real estate game, and I like being in this space.
Interesting. And especially if you're trying to scale up, how would you raise money for your deals? I've seen on Twitter you've talked about how you've been able to build a portfolio which is I think less than $100 million, but worth much more. But what's been your strategy to raise more money?
Yeah, I mean, we syndicate, so we raise money on terms where the investor gets a preferred return and then we get a cut of the upside. So everybody thinks it's impressive that we bought $100 million worth of real estate. Well, we have investors that own, all of that real estate. We own a chunk of the upside, and we, invest 5 to 10% of our own cash in each of the deals. So it's not like I have personally laid out $40 million to buy these deals. But yeah, you gotta understand real estate private equity and the fees that you need to charge to do the work inside of a real estate company. which is managing the business, buying the real estate, doing all those things that are required to effectively buy and operate, a real estate asset class. And then it's about approaching people with money and offering them terms that they would accept and a vision and making them trust you that you are going to be a good operator and a good steward of their capital. You're going to protect the downside and you're going to, just be a good manager.
Correct. And how do you find the deals to buy? Do you focus only in the city that you live in, or are you spread across the world?
We remotely manage real estate, so we can buy anywhere in the country, and we have, like you said, 63 properties, and
Right.
I think they're in 22 different cities. So we have properties in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, all the way up to the Midwest, to the Northeast, Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut. And we have a fully remote team managing the properties, aside from a group of trusted vendors on the ground that, sweep the units and keep the properties clean and do the snow removal and pest control. But yeah, it's a effort to source deals. I mean, we're looking at a lot of deals from brokers. We're looking at a lot of deals off market. We cold call owners, and it's a numbers game. Like we have 3 full-time acquisitions folks who are calling owners. We have 2 underwriters who are constantly all day, every day underwriting storage deals and figuring out what we can afford to pay for them. And we have, a head of finance who's making the offers to the owners. We're negotiating them. And then once we get them under contract, we're working them through due diligence, and then we got to raise the money, and we got to get the bank loans, and we got to close the deal. So there's a lot of moving parts to it, just like any business.
Correct. And you talked about cold calling, especially, I work in SaaS sales, so there's a lot of cold calling involved there. But and you also talk about it's a numbers game. How much of cold calling does your team do, and what's been the ratio of getting these calls converted?
Well, real estate right now is really tough. It's a really tough business. So we have like 2021, we bought $50 million worth of storage. 2022, we bought $36 million worth of storage. This year so far, we've been at it for 6 months, and we bought one deal for a little under $2 million. So the connection now, the market is really tough right now. Interest rates went from 3.5% to 7%. It's really hard to afford to buy commercial real estate, and sellers still want prices that they knew they could get back in 2021. So it's a very tough time to be a real estate buyer, at least in self-storage.
Okay, got it. And how do you operate the properties? I mean, I also read that you operate the properties on your own and you don't outsource it. Is there any reason for that?
Yeah, just I'm a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. I am not afraid to manage the teams. I'm not afraid to build the processes. We're not afraid to get our hands dirty to do the work. And so we self-manage. We manage our own properties. We answer the phone 24/7. We collect rent. We keep the properties clean. So yeah, it's just, I think I can do it better than a third-party group who I'm paying to manage my properties. I think I can do it better. So that's why we've elected to self-manage and build this stuff in-house.
Okay. And I also assume that, there's a lot of debt involved when you look at buying real estate. So how do you generally look at buying a property that would have good level of cash flow? I understand that you bought only one property, but what was the deal dynamics behind that deal? What led you to buy that property this year?
Yeah, so in 2021, when we were super busy, we could responsibly put 60% of the money would be bank debt. So we would put 40% of the cash down, which we'd raise from investors. 60% of it would be bank debt. And when the bank debt costs 3.5% and you're getting 2 years of interest only, you can afford to buy a 6 cap or a 5.5 cap deal, and it was still cash flow. Today, when interest rates are 7.5%, the 6 cap deals do not cash flow, and you can't use very much bank debt. So basically today we're putting basically full all cash offers in, and we're not using bank debt for about the last 6 months. Not many groups can do that. A lot of them are pushing seller financing on sellers, but yeah, we're going all cash on a lot of deals. Well, we don't have a lot of deals, but the deals that are penciling, we're going all cash. I'll tell you, there's not a lot less fun right now than the real estate market. It's hard right now. In 2021, we were doing a lot of deals. We were transacting. We were collecting a lot of fees. We were refinancing deals. We were making money. 2023, different story. It's a grind. You mentioned like, what are the numbers on our cold calling? Our team does 1,000 connections a week with self-storage owners. They talk to 1,000 owners a week, our 3 cold callers. And we haven't gotten a deal under contract in about 8 weeks. So nothing.
Okay, got it. And I read somewhere like people now going back to the offices, the numbers are 30% less than what it used to be in 2021. Do you see the commercial real estate, especially the office spaces, going to the valuations are going to go down, and not a lot of institutional investors are going to look into buying commercial real estate?
Yeah, I mean the values have already gone down. Yeah, we're offering 30% less than we were offering in 2021 to buy an asset that's the same, because debt went from 3.5 to 7.5%.
Yeah.
So debt fuels real estate. Debt allows us to buy more real estate. Debt makes it so you need to raise less capital. So yeah, we are. It's the value in our opinion, the value is down, but we're not buying very much storage. So maybe the value is actually higher than what we are allotting to it. It's hard to tell, right? It's a moving target. You never really know where the value is. But yeah, there's a lot of real estate asset classes that are in some pain right now, that have maturing debt coming up. They need to replace their mortgages. The value's down. Maybe even the operational fundamentals, like the leasing rates and the amount of customers that are coming into their properties are down. So that makes our job harder across the board.
Got it. And when you talked about raising funds, do you raise from institutional funds, or is it retail investors that you look into?
Yeah. So we go there. You have 2 options. You can raise larger amounts of money from a smaller number of people, or you can raise small amounts of money from a larger number of people. We fall somewhere in the middle. Our average investor has 250 to 500 grand with us, which is more than retail investors that are putting $10,000 or $20,000 into a deal. But yeah, our minimum investment's 50 grand, but we have some LPs that are multiple 7 figures invested with us now. So it's not institutional though. We're not raising money from funds or PE groups or bigger players. We're raising money from high net worth individuals.
Oh, I see. Okay, got it. Interesting. And I also saw that you also an investor in Shepherd, which allows, just like a headhunter agency which specializes in overseas talent. So so how do you why did you invest into there, and what was the deal dynamics? Are you also operationally involved in this company?
Yeah, so I was first a customer. There's a company called Support Shepherd, supportshepherd.com. Marshall Haas is the co-founder, and him and I are really good friends now. He came to me when the company was about a year old, and he said, Nick, you should consider hiring some employees that are in the Philippines and Latin America. And so I reached out to him and I said, okay, let's set this up. And his team created a job description for me. They brought me 3 candidates. I was interviewing for a customer service rep first, brought me 3 candidates, and I loved all 3 of the people. I hired all 3 of the candidates that they brought me. And so pretty soon, less than a couple months later, I had, 5 or 10 of these employees on my team, and it was going really well. And I decided to be a affiliate for him, because I also have a large following on Twitter. I think at the time it was 150,000 followers, and a lot of people on my newsletter about small business and entrepreneurship. And so I reached out to him and said, let's set up a deal where I can talk about Support Shepherd on Twitter, and you can pay me a percentage of the revenue that I bring you. So we did that for about a year, from 2021 to 2022, and the company grew a lot. It grew really fast, and about 7x. It was doing 40, 50 grand a month in revenue to about 250 grand a month in revenue.
Wow.
And then at that point, I wanted to become an investor and a partner and an owner in the business. And him and I made a deal where I was a minority owner, and I continued to help grow the company. And it's large now. Like we're doing, it's a company that we wouldn't sell for $20 million. So it's a great business.
Interesting. And I've also seen that you also are owner, or you're a part owner in a lot of other companies. I think there's something called real estate cost segregation. I think, are you focusing mostly on services companies, or are you also looking to invest into software companies, or I don't know, about AI companies?
Yeah.
What's the logic behind acquiring these companies?
Yeah. I have a unique advantage on on the internet with my distribution.
Right.
I now have over 300,000 followers on Twitter. I got 110,000 people on my email newsletter. I got 5,000 people each week who listen to my podcast. And so when I, build this audience of business owners who want to make more money, and they, maybe they're interested in real estate, or they're running small companies, and they're interested in hiring and managing, I have all of these people following me, and they buy services, they buy web development, they buy SEO, they buy, um, you know, pay-per-click performance marketing services, and they buy cost segregation, studies for their real estate. They buy property and casualty insurance through a brokerage. They use recruiting services of hiring and staffing overseas talent, and even American talent. So I've started this core group of companies that I'm a customer of myself. All my other companies are customers of each other. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
my performance marketing firm will use my web development firm, will use my, SEO firm, will use my recruiting firm. So there's a lot of synergies there. And also a lot of small business owners and a lot of real estate investors are looking for trustworthy vendors who they can, use to build their websites and do their search engine optimization and pay for their marketing and help them run their marketing. So there's a lot of synergy around these service businesses in my area. So that's why I focus on it.
Okay, got it. And do you also look at, what are sort of profit margins in these services, I mean, in the service businesses, or would you also look at, acquiring like a SaaS product going forward?
Yeah, I would love a SaaS product. That's not my specialty. I don't know as much about
Okay,
that, and I
right,
haven't had the opportunity yet to start one or invest in one. But and most of these companies, to be clear, are kind of startups. After Shepherd, all the others were start up from the ground up, and now
yeah,
there's 11 businesses if you count my personal brand and my brokerage, which we're buying and selling businesses too. So all of them have been started from the ground up, and I'm not as good at starting SaaS companies, but I think someday soon I'll own a partner in some of these businesses.
got it. And you do talk about lot of different things. You're just not focused on real estate, but how do you get to decide, what to learn, and what is your learning process once you made the decision on what to learn?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I think it comes down to your ability to make decisions. Like if you're starting a business, if you're learning to do anything, like you have to make a lot of decisions when you're learning those things, and decision making is a practiced skill. So it's like it's I don't have a great answer. Like I don't have a solid process for how I learn something. I think learning is a skill, and the more learning you do and the more practice learning you do, the better you can get at it and the faster you can learn.
Got it. And how do you get to prioritize when it comes to making strategic initiatives for your real estate business?
How do I say that first part again?
How do you get to decide what to prioritize when it comes to looking at strategic initiatives for your core business?
Yeah, I think business is unique because there's 100 decisions that you need to make every week,
Right.
and you don't know which decisions are the most important ones. You're left with incomplete information. You don't have all the data to make the best decisions or feel like you're making a data-driven decision. And also, you can get a lot of the decisions wrong. There's no correct answer to a lot of the decisions. So, for example, if you're starting a company, you have a lot of decisions to make right off the bat. And some of those decisions, they're like Y's in the road, and you can go left and you can go right, and both of them can get you to the place you need to go. And you just don't know. You don't know which decisions are the big ones and which decisions aren't. So, in my opinion, the biggest decisions that you can make are, the initial tool stack that you use to start your business with, what tools you're using as a CRM, as communication, as, all those things. And then also who you're partnering with, and how, and managing expectations and setting expectations on who does what. and how they're going to do it. So those are some things that I prioritize when I'm starting a company.
Correct. And I also saw that you got 50 employees in the company, but what's been your biggest lesson since you started your business when it comes to hiring?
I think at the very beginning, I used to think about hiring as, hey, I'm going to post a job,
right,
and people are going to come to me because they want to work for a company. And I kind of just expected great people to walk in the door. And I realized pretty quickly that, hey, great people are really hard to find. And you get a lot of advice as a business owner, like just hire great people, just hire great people, just hire great people. I think that advice is just not good. I think it's not practical advice for a startup founder. Yes, Elon Musk can attract great people. If I'm starting a lawn care business, how am I going to attract great people to mow lawns with me? That is not practical advice. So simplify the job and set your business up so that normal people can come in and do really well and help you make money. And if your business requires unicorns, if it requires unbelievable people to do well in it, like a lot of tech startups do, a lot of businesses, you have to be really, really, really good at what you do to actually survive. That's not a business I want to be in. I want to be in a business where if I properly manage and organize a group of people, we can be profitable and we can make money.
But and what would you think would be your biggest hiring mistake since you started entrepreneurship?
I haven't made a ton of big mistakes. I haven't hired the wrong person for too long and let them run my company to the ground. I've hired a lot of friends and family, and I've been wise in how I manage expectations. And some of us have parted ways, and it didn't ruin a relationship. So I think I'm pretty good. If there's something that I did right, it's that I managed expectations with almost all the employees and all the people that I've hired, so that there's never a big gap between what somebody expects to happen and what is actually happening. So that's been something I've done right. As far as a mistake goes, I think it's early on, I just wasn't hiring fast enough. I was doing too much of the work myself. I was not a good delegator, and I was thinking, hey, get out of my way, I can do this, instead of, hey, I need to, in order to really leverage and scale and grow this business, I need to kind of accept the fact that an employee might not do quite as good of a job as me, but they're going to free me up to do other things. And that's the really valuable part. So I think early on, I was too slow to hire at the beginning.
Got it. And when it comes to delegation, when do you think the founder should start delegating? Should it be like a revenue number, or the number of employees when he should think about delegation?
I think it's a skill level, it's an experience level, and it's business prospects. A operator who's got experience, somebody who's sold a couple companies, somebody who's got a bankroll, they've got money in the bank, they're rich, they've done this before, they're an experienced entrepreneur, they're going to delegate from day one. Like, they're going to hire an employee before they even have a customer.
Right.
Okay. But if you're a college student, you got no money, no network, and you got no ability, you need to do the work yourself. You need to do the work yourself. Like, trade your time for money. Business in my opinion, entrepreneurship is a step-by-step process. Step one, trade your time for money. Get good at what you're doing. Step two, delegate so that you can trade that person's time. You can pay money for time. Like, okay, time for money at the beginning. I'm doing work to get paid. Step two, I'm paying somebody else to do work, and I'm getting paid more than I'm paying them. I'm leveraging another person. And then from there, it's just continue to, take what you get in the business. And if you have a good business that's profitable and you can grow faster, do it. And if your business model is flawed and it's not working, you obviously don't hire and delegate when there's no work that needs to be done.
Got it. Interesting. And you've been active on Twitter. You got a huge following, got more than 300,000 followers. I also read one of the posts where you leveraging Twitter to build your business and get new investors. What advice would you give to somebody like me who's just trying to build his personal brand on Twitter, on anybody who wants to and get more, build more of the personal brand there?
Yeah. So a personal brand is really, really valuable
Right.
if you have a way to monetize the following,
Right.
or you want to network and make friends, or you just want to, practice your writing and you want to bounce ideas and learn. So there's three ways you can go out and make money. You can sell to your following.
Right.
Number two is you can make friends with your following. And build your own network and link up with other people like you, because entrepreneurship is really lonely. And number
Right.
three is you can put an idea out there and you can get feedback and you can learn really fast. You can interact with smart people and they'll tell you where you're wrong, and they'll make you better, make you smarter. But if you want to grow a following, I think the path is pretty similar for everybody. And it's step one is you got to do something interesting.
Right.
There's two reasons why somebody would follow you on the internet. It's one is because you make really good arguments and you say really smart things. And number two is that you've accomplished something and you are an authority and you should be trusted. I think the second one is more important. Second one's way more important. It's like, okay, somebody wants to get a following. Let's just paint a picture here. Somebody wants to get a following in basketball. They're a basketball expert and they want to get a following when it comes to basketball.
Right.
One of them is Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
They're the best basketball player of all time. The other one is a high school PE teacher and a big fan of the Chicago Bulls.
Right.
Which one of those two people are you going to want to follow if you want to learn basketball? Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to get a following. Everybody wants to put out information. Everybody wants to build a personal brand. But if they're not doing anything, they haven't built a business, they haven't made money, if they haven't built teams, if they haven't hired people, it's just not going to work. And the second thing, like one really tactical thing that you can do is like set your bio on Twitter up to make people want to follow you. Way too many people are super humble in their bio. And their bio says, I'm a father, I'm a business owner, I'm an investor, and I love, business and giving back. That doesn't tell me anything about what they do or what they've done. And unfortunately, when I go and visit somebody's profile, the 3 seconds that I'm on their profile, I'm extremely selfish and I'm thinking, hey, what can this person teach me? What can this person that I'm on their profile right now, what can they teach me? And why should I follow them? I'm very selfish. I'm in a selfish mode. Why should I listen to them? Because we live in an era on the internet where there's tons of people arguing.
Right.
There's tons of great content. There are an amazing amount of writers. And I don't have time to vet everybody based on how logical their argument is. I don't have time to judge everybody based on the amazing points that they make or the value that they're adding in their writing. So what happens is people judge the book by the cover on Twitter. They do it very quickly. You're getting judged. You're getting micro-judged over and over and over and over again. People are visiting my profile right now and they're judging it. They're judging it. They're judging it. Should I follow? Should I follow? What can this guy do for me? What can this guy do for me? What can this guy do for me? Way too many people have their profile set up the entire wrong way that makes them look like just an average Joe Schmo. And people are visiting their profile. People are visiting their profile. People are visiting their profile, and nobody's following them because they're not wearing the suit for the interview. You can be humble and you can treat people with respect, but if you're not willing to tell people what you've done in your bio and why they should follow you, and brag on yourself, like literally brag on yourself. There are brilliant people who have bought hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate and have a lot to say, and their bio doesn't say it. And it's like, they're showing up to an interview in a tank top. They're showing up to an interview at an investment bank in a tank top instead of showing up to the interview in a suit. Show up to the interview in a suit. You're getting micro-judged all the time on social media very quickly. Separate yourself from the crowd. Make people understand why they should trust you, and tell them very quickly and very succinctly what they can do or what they can learn from you and what value you can add to them. So people are naturally humble. Everybody should be naturally humble. We're taught to not brag on ourselves. And I'm not talking about 30 under 30 Forbes. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, hey, I have built this many businesses to this much money, and I've had this many exits for this much money. That's very uncomfortable for a lot of people like us to say. We are not naturally going to brag on each other. We think it makes ourselves look silly. It doesn't. If you think you're going to get follows, and if you think you're going to get people to follow you on social media, just off the quality of your thoughts and the quality of your arguments and the quality of your content, that's an extremely arrogant way to think about social media. It is. It's an arrogant, selfish way to think about social media. It's a game that if you want to play the game, this is what you need to do. It's not about bragging. It's not about being humble. It's about that's how to do it. And so many people get that wrong. There's so many brilliant people trying so hard on social media that are afraid. They're afraid to put on the suit for the interview.
So super interesting. I think that's a great advice. But are you looking at Twitter to add more, to make a network, or to get more investors? And what's your networking strategy in order to get the right sort of people?
It's a flywheel. I'm meeting amazing people. I'm getting face-to-face people like you. I've met mentors. I've met friends. I've went on trips where we've collaborated and had, deep dives and masterminds on how to get better as business people with people who are running 200 to 500, $600 million companies. Those are the people that I've gotten in the room with through Twitter, and they're becoming friends, and we're collaborating. We're making each other better. Those are the people that I'm hanging out with. I'm also finding investors. I have an investor list that's 1,500 people long of people who are interested in seeing my deals when I send out my deals, or when I'm interested in doing something. They trust me. They get a look into my mind all the time. They know how I think about business. They're interested in doing business with me. And also I'm selling web development services. I'm selling cost segregation services. We're selling recruiting services. We're selling, so it's a big flywheel.
Right.
I'm adding value. I'm adding as much value as I possibly can to all these people, adding as much value as I can. I'm giving them all the advice that I can on real estate. I'm telling them how I do it. I'm telling them how I hire people, I'm just trying to make people who are interested in business better at business. That's all I'm trying to do. But then the trust flywheel starts. They start to trust me. They get a look into my mind. They see how I think about things. They trust when I recommend a company. They trust when, I advise them to do something, and they want to be friends with me. Maybe they think, oh, that I like the way this guy thinks. This guy resonates with me. We would get along well, and they'll reach out and ping me, and we'll begin to build a relationship. And it's just pretty, it's pretty amazing, the flywheel that can take place. You don't have to pick and choose. You don't have to pick and choose whether you're going to go after customers, friends, investors. You can have it all, and it's an unbelievable thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's great advice. I just quickly want to do the top 3. What's your favorite business book?
One of my favorite business books that you might not have heard. I'm going to mention 2 business books.
Okay.
The first one is Entrepreneurship by Dave Ramsey. You think of Dave Ramsey as a super Christian guy who tells people no credit cards.
Yeah.
Dave Ramsey is also a great entrepreneur. He's been through, he went through the real estate crisis, lost a lot of properties. He's building a massive media brand. He knows how to manage people. He knows how to build a business. And that book is full of very tactical advice on how to build a business. The second book that I really like is called The Goal by Eliyahu Goldratt. And look, everybody loves James Clear, Atomic Habits. I'm trying to go a little bit off the beaten path of maybe 2 books that people haven't heard. But I also have I have a book list that I can send you and put in. I've done a lot of reading. I've probably read 400 to 500 business books, and I have a PDF. I have a PDF that people can click on and sign up for my email newsletter, and they get a PDF with about 15 of my favorite books and why they should read them and what they're about.
Yeah.
But the second one is called, so I'll put that link, I'll give that link to you so that you can include it in the show notes if people want that. But the second book that I really like is called The Goal by Eliyahu Goldratt. Have you ever heard of that book? It's about the bottleneck in any business. Every business has a bottleneck, whether it's customers, whether it's processes, whether it's a certain employee doing a certain thing inside your business. And your job as a business owner is just to relieve bottlenecks all over your business so that things can continue to happen and information can move and customers can get what they want and customers can pay you. So it's a really amazing book on how to think about the bottlenecks, how to remove the bottlenecks. And they use a fictional story about a factory to kind of tell that story. And it's a great book.
No, awesome. I haven't read it, but I'll put that in the show notes, and I'll also put the list of the of your favorite books on the show notes. And if you could go back in time when you started with self-storage and Bolshoi, what is the one thing you would have focused on or done anything differently?
So the problem with real estate, and it's such a great business when you get momentum, But at the very beginning, you need two things. You need to be able to run the business and to be able to find the deals. And you also have to go after and find the capital. You have to go find the money.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time studying the deals. I spend a lot of time learning the business. I spend a lot of time going after deal flow, cold calling owners, getting deals that were worth buying. But I didn't spend enough time at the beginning going after the money, the capital, the investor. And I thought forever that my customer, the customer in self-storage, was the tenant. The tenant was the customer. And they are, but they're not the main customer. The main customers are investors. Our investor, the person who puts their cash with me, that's really my number one customer. In order to serve them, I have to serve a tenant, of course. I have to manage the property. I have to keep it clean. I have to rent it. I have to run the business well. But I didn't think of the investor as the number one customer early on, and I do now.
Correct. Interesting. And what's your favorite online tool? For example, Gmail, Slack, Zoom.
I really like Airtable. It's a very cheap CRM. That's great. Customer.io is an amazing tool to send automatic emails to customers at different times in the, you can have them fill out a form on your landing page. And if they drop out halfway through, you can send them, scheduled emails, automated emails to bring them back. Customer.io is extremely underrated tool. But I think for the first time small business owner, they're in business for the very first time, G Suite, Google Voice, free version of Slack, and you're in business.
Absolutely. We'll put that in the show notes. Nick, what is the best way people can reach out to you and know more about Sweaty Startup, Bold Stories, and other businesses?
So you can follow me on Twitter at Sweaty Startup. If you don't like Twitter, I spend a lot of time each week drafting a newsletter, and I send it out every Monday or Tuesday, and it's on the topic of hiring, managing, building teams, building businesses, and real estate. And so if you're an entrepreneur, if you're managing people at work, whatever it could be, and you want to get better at managing people and getting higher leverage and make more money, my newsletter is for you. And you can go to sweatystartup.com to subscribe to my newsletter. And I send a 2,000 word email every week.
Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes. Nick, thank you so much for taking our time speaking to us. I really enjoyed my conversation with you.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.